everyone, it's Maki. Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway certainly enthralls us with its grand and powerful battle scenes featuring the Gundams, doesn't it? Which one are you rooting for, the She-Gundam or Penelope? Today, I will explain the battle between the two mobile suits depicted in the latter part of the movie. She-Gundam and Penelope can be referred to as sibling mobile suits. Penelope has a model number of RX 104. She-Gundam has a model number of RX 105. Lane said Penelope is the mother machine of the Minovsky flight. Both of these Gundams are equipped with devices that enable free flight at supersonic speeds. The unique flight sound of Penelope is due to the Minovsky flight. The parts glowing yellow are also an expression of the effects of the Minovsky flight. Penelope refers to the condition of the Odysseus Gundam, a mobile suit equipped with the Minovsky flight and an additional external attachment called the fixed flight unit. She-Gundam has integrated the Minovsky flight into the mobile suit. The flight sound doesn't differ much from regular mobile suits. It has a feature that makes it hard for enemy units to detect its presence because it does not cause a glowing phenomenon like Penelope. So is She-Gundam a superior machine? That's not necessarily the case. Both machines have armor made of Gundam alloy, and they have nearly equal numbers in terms of generator output and propulsion. They are also equipped with weaponry of sufficient power and quantity to destroy mobile suits. Both units were manufactured by a company called Anaheim Electronics, a Gundam that has completed its function as a standalone mobile suit. A Gundam that equips external units to its mobile suit, allowing performance changes depending on the situation. By pitting Gundams with equal performance, but different characteristics against each other, they can research more beneficial machine concepts. Perhaps with this information, you may have gained new insights into the battle between MAFT and the Earth Federation forces. Now, let's move on to analyze the actual combat. Penelope attacks cargo piece, a cargo pod. Inside the pod, Hathaway is aboard the She-Gundam. Particles of the beam are bursting from the damaged part of the pod. Lane is depicted as an inexperienced pilot, but it can be understood that he was just a little short of making a direct hit. An expression of impatience appears on Hathaway's face as well. The equipment status of the She-Gundam is displayed on the monitor. The details of the built-in weapons become clear here. 2 beam sabers, 28 funnel missiles that look like 2 pyramids combined, 24 regular missiles that resemble cylinders with wings attached, 2 spare energy packs for the beam rifle. It's heavily armed. Penelope attempts to attack again. When aiming, an unknown display appears. Lane is baffled by the sight of the mobile suit that has revealed itself. She-Gundam accelerates rapidly, moving away from the pod, emitting a flashing light from its thrusters. Lane immediately executes a beam attack. At this point, Hathaway has achieved a victory by drawing Penelope's attention to himself. He has protected the main body of the pod and the surprise and replacement parts left inside it. Hathaway spoke before launching, saying, "If I don't launch from the pad now, Mafty's boat will also be caught in the attack." His first choice was successful. Of course, Lane's focus on the rapidly departing She-Gundam was not a mistake. If he had prioritized attacking the pod here, it would have exposed a vulnerability in front of an unidentified enemy. Lane had no choice but to pursue the She-Gundam. The She-Gundam narrowly avoids Penelope's beam attack. It can be expected to conserve propellant, and by not describing a large trajectory, it also has the effect of being harder for the enemy to predict. Go-Man makes a wise crack at the surprised Lane. This scene is modest, but an important point. The She-Gundam flies through the crowds to Lane, who tries to pursue. Go-Man speaks in a serious tone. Don't follow, you'll be targeted though. Go-Man makes light of Lane's attack. He gives serious advice when Penelope is being attacked. This is to prevent himself from being defeated along with Lane. Angered by Go-Man, Lane pilots Penelope. He begins his actions while transforming from Mobile Suit mode to high-speed flight mode. An attack from the She-Gundam hits Penelope. Penelope also narrowly avoids the beam attack. Here too you can understand that Lane's piloting technique is superior. What he lacks is combat experience. As Kenneth Lex said, Lane has little experience in outmaneuvering enemy pilots, but his piloting skill itself is high. In this scene, he transforms into high-speed flight mode and then immediately transforms back into Mobile Suit mode. The act of transformation itself is in vain, showing an understanding that his judgment in the maneuvering is immature. However, since he can avoid the attack from the She-Gundam, you can also understand that his piloting skill is high. The part where he lacks experience in maneuvering is further depicted. Lane attacks blindly towards the crowds. It is a wasteful consumption of energy. He is warned by Go-Man. Watch closely this time to the right. These words are also advice for the situation where Penelope is being attacked. He only gives advice to avoid getting caught up and killed himself. Let's also pay attention to the fact that Go-Man's reaction speed is faster than Lane's. Go-Man is reacting at a superior speed compared to Lane, who is wearing a pilot suit, seated in his seat, and checking the monitor in the correct position. The difference in the pilot's combat experience is clearly depicted. While the She-Gundam and Penelope are fighting, Mafty's forces are at sea, recovering supplies spilled from a pod. As I explained earlier, Hathaway has already secured one victory at this point. The Earth Federation Army's Gustav Karl is about to join the attack. It launches from the sub-flight system called Kesselier. Having spotted the Kesselier after Gustav Karl's launch, Hathaway becomes wary of Gustav Karl's approach. This is the image on the monitor Hathaway is watching. Gustav Karl appears as one unit. However, it increases to 2 units just before the She-Gundam. By arranging the units in a straight line against the enemy, it makes it difficult for the enemy to determine the exact number. This is the same tactic that the ace pilots called the Black Tri-Stars executed in the original Gundam. If this was not a coincidence, but was carried out by the pilot's judgment, one may think that the pilots of Gustav Karl also have superior piloting skills. One Gustav Karl collides with She-Gundam. She-Gundam bends its left arm to catch Gustav Karl's arm. Gustav Karl attacks with a kick. There's an impact, but Hathaway is not shaken. He destroys Gustav Karl's arm right then and there. There is no depiction of gaining momentum or utilizing the opponent's attack movement. Here you can understand that it is being destroyed simply by raw power. With this, one unit has been incapacitated. Ace pilots in the Gundam series often continue to fight even if their units are damaged. However, damaging the unit greatly disrupts its balance. For a typical pilot, this is an extremely serious situation. Let's try to relate this to the real world. How about when a bicycle basket is loaded with a lot of stuff and the weight and balance are different from usual? Wouldn't delicate driving be difficult? Could you possibly compete in a duel with an incredibly skilled professional athlete? It would be a very challenging situation. The Gustav Karl, with the destroyed arm, chooses to retreat. It does not appear in the battle scenes that follow. Gustav Karl falls in a manner akin to skydiving. The differences in flying abilities between She Gundam and Penelope are depicted. One Gustav Karl unit adjusts its posture and attacks. She Gundam intercepts with its beam rifle. It's an instant event. While evading the attack, She Gundam defeats Gustav Karl. Without any unnecessary firing, it's destroyed with a single attack. She Gundam immediately targets another Gustav Karl and fires its beam rifle. Again, it's destroyed with one blow. The delayed reaction of Gustav Karl to the rapidly descending She Gundam is striking. In Gundam Unicorn, a scene was depicted where the old Zen Army mobile suits could not respond to the speed of the latest units. The same phenomenon is occurring between She Gundam and Gustav Karl. A bazooka or grenade launcher shell fired by Gustav Karl is approaching. Hathaway ignores this shell eventually. The flames of the propellant fade and it veers off somewhere. You can understand that solid projectile weapons are not very effective against She Gundam's speed. Hathaway targets Kesarier. The beam used here is of the type that emits over a long time. Like an irradiation with this, he destroys two Kesarier units as if cutting them with a long beam saber. The Gustav Karl, having had Kesarier destroyed, opts to retreat for Gustav Karl, which cannot fly freely in the air. Losing Kesarier is a fatal blow. Also, though Kesarier is not very powerful, it is equipped with missiles and beam cannons. The number of enemies was very challenging for just one She Gundam to handle. Hathaway has assuredly reduced the number of foes. In this short time, Hathaway has incapacitated one Gustav Karl, destroyed two and shot down two Kesarier units. By destroying their means of mobility, he also successfully forced the remaining Gustav Karl units to retreat. The Kesarier that first appeared were a total of 3 units one day. What happened to the remaining one, don't worry. It will have a brief appearance later on. Having repelled the Gustav Karl unit, Hathaway continues to be on alert then. A beam is fired from Penelope from behind. Hathaway reacts instantly, blocking the beam with his shield. In Zeta Gundam, Amaowe gave this advice to Camilo Bayern. Keep an eye on your back. Camilo was perplexed by this demanding request. However, in this scene, Hathaway accurately responds to an attack from behind. The beam is repelled on the surface of the shield, compared to the Gustav Karl that was destroyed with a single shot from the beam rifle earlier. You can understand that there is a strong defensive power. If there were no defense like a coating against the beam, the shield would be penetrated and collapse. In this scene, since the beam is repelled on the surface of the shield, you can understand that defensive mechanisms like beam coating are equipped. A large explosion occurs, but She Gundam is instantly retaliating. Penelope makes a rapid approach and executes an attack with a beam saber. She Gundam defends against that attack with its own beam saber. Penelope's face is aimed at She Gundam's chest. This is a real-world episode. The designer designed She Gundam with a monstrous image, therefore. The chest is a part that can look like a face due to the unique shape of the antenna. This scene reflects elements that occurred in the real world within the film. Now, let's focus on the confrontation scene. The perspective from Penelope's camera is depicted. The gaze shifts from the chest to the head of Gundam in this situation. Lane communicates with Hathaway. Is Mafty going to use even a copy of Gundam? Lane does not know that Gundam was manufactured by Anaheim Electronics in a situation where Minovsky particles are scattered. Wireless communication is impossible. However, communication is possible by coming extremely close or by making contact. Gundam dodges the beam fired at close range, instantly retaliating with a beam saber. Lane can also respond to Hathaway's beam saber attack. If in a situation where he can make calm judgments, Lane is also a highly skilled pilot of course. He is slightly inferior in this aspect to Hathaway, who can always make calm judgments. Afterwards, Lane releases Gomen. It's an independent action, reflecting his preference not to fight dishonorably by using hostages as shields. Gundam takes position against Penelope, which has pulled back. Hathaway doubts whether Lane is really releasing the hostages. The blade of the beam saber is still active, the beam rifle is also ready, and the shield is facing forward, making his body as small as possible, while minimizing the area exposed to attack from the front. It's a stance that can respond to any situation. It's also clearly depicted that the beam saber can emit a blade from the rear of the handle. Mr. Nobuhiko Janmer, who was in charge of mechanical design, spoke of this in the setting documents, saying, "I envisioned the cover illustration of the novel version of Charles' Counterattack. By expanding the beam blade up and down, I aimed for the impression that you're not holding the sword, but grasping the blade itself. I aimed to give Gundam a monstrous impression." Lane releases the hostage. From behind him, Gustav Karl fires a beam. The Gustav Karl, using the unshot down Cassarier, remained on the battlefield. Lane places Penelope between Gustav Karl and Gundam to block the line of fire, even if it interferes with a no-eyes attack. He avoids the dishonest act. Hathaway is surprised by this action, but admires it, thinking he's a man of integrity. Hathaway has retrieved the hostage. Lane says, "I didn't wait out of mercy." You can understand that he has strong confidence. It's a small point, but you can see Gustav Karl holding a shield on the monitor of Penelope. The depiction makes it easy to understand how the mechanism works, with the shield being held by an arm attached to the backpack on its back. The first match ends with the release of the hostage. After confirming Gustav Karl's withdrawal, Lane transforms Penelope into its high-speed flight mode and approaches Gundam. The second match will be explained in a different program. Please look forward to it. By the way, how did you feel about Lane's actions? What would you do if you were holding a hostage? In fact, the subscribe button on the screen you are watching is a switch to release Penelope's hatch. By pressing that button, you can become a person of integrity. The decision is up to you. See you again in the next program.